the spring of 2006, my yellow lab, Loop, woke me at the first light of day, barking madly and crazily at a bear that was staring at him through my sliding glass doors. I live on the border of Teton National Park. Although it was barely light, the bear's face and demeanor was one of calmness. Like, go ahead, make my day. As I looked closer, I realized this was not one of the black bears that normally wander through my property. I paused to wonder if in my grogginess were my eyes playing tricks on me. I knew from all of my experiences in Alaska, Canada, and Yellowstone, this was a grizzly. Blocky head, smallish ears, and the obvious shoulder hump. As a result of human persecution, grizzlies had not been resident in the area of Grand Teton for a number of decades. The bear on my porch made clear that was changing. 6 months later, I saw another bear with triplets feeding on a moose carcass on the island of the Oxbow Bend, 35 miles north of my cabin. It was nearly dark and difficult to photograph. I'd heard rumors it was likely a bear tagged 399. Little did I know that that day was the beginning of a 12-year relationship that would make 399 my favorite subject in my 50-year career of photography. Years later, she became the most famous bear in the world. She even has her own Facebook page. The following spring, fresh out of her winter's den, we met again. She was standing in new grasses and freshly fallen snow. She was waiting for her new, now yearling cubs to catch up with her and return to digging pocket gopher stashes. 3 sets of triplets, 2 sets of twins, and 2 single cubs later, people always ask me if I think 399 recognizes me. I doubt she recognizes me visually. With her nose and olfactory sense 2,000 times better than humans, 7 times larger than bloodhounds, she may well recognize me by my scent or my vehicle smell. In bear jams, she frequently chooses to cross in front of or behind vehicles that she finds familiar or more likely smells. Maybe it's the scent of a known comfort zone. One of the things I learned about 399 was her intelligence and her innate problem-solving behavior, not unlike a dog in a big city. I've watched 399 pause at the side of the road, look both directions, vocalize to her cubs, and when the coast was clear, lead them across the highway. Sometimes returning to scold them when they stop to play with the traffic cones they consider chew toys. If her cubs wandered off, she'd become frantic, calling out like a mother may have lost a toddler in the supermarket. At dusk, on June 19th, 2016, something went wrong. Just north of Pilgrim Creek, the main highway to Yellowstone, a vehicle hit and killed 399's single cub of the year, nicknamed Snowy. Afterwards, witnesses saw 399 go out into the highway, pick up the limp body of the tiny cub, take it into the woods, and lay it by a fallen spruce. She spent the rest of the night running up and down the highway, bawling and peering to be searching for Snowy. Finally, by morning, rangers had to haze her from the highway so that she wouldn't also get struck by a vehicle and had to collect her cub. These are not simply stories about a special family of bears in Teton Park that millions of people have seen, but stories that reflect the lives of all other special families of bears. These bears are not simply objects, nor are they arbitrary population numbers, numbers used to establish whether there are surplus bears. Wildlife agencies make available for what they call a recreational hunting opportunity. The premise being that the bears can withstand a level of harvesting without detriment to the overall population. I grew up in a sport hunting family on the Platte River in Nebraska, mostly hunting waterfowl. That's me on the left, my buddy Luke, my little brother Hal, and my father Harold. I was such an avid hunter, I became the youngest at 20 years old to twice win the world's goose calling champion. We ate everything we killed, and wild game was a staple on our dining room table. My dad often told me who the bad guys were: the coyotes, the foxes, raccoons, and skunks, to name a few. He said they ate the eggs of the good guys: ducks, geese, pheasants, and quail. So when I was 11 or 12 years old, I set a trap line and checked it every day along the shores of the Platte River, mostly in old, dilapidated beaver dens. I'd read up on trapping, how to skin animals, and stayed up late many nights, scraping the fat off of raccoons and selling the skins to the local furrier for a couple of bucks. One day, I caught only the front paw of a raccoon in a leg hold trap and realized what a desperate and courageous animal he was. In order to save his life, he had chewed off his foot. A week later, I caught a raccoon that had a bloody stump for a foot. I had to dispatch her with my .22 rifle. I went back to our hunting shack and told my story to my dad, and he said, "I think, son, I think we should hang up the trapping." That experience haunts me to this day and is likely one of the main reasons for my own personal metamorphosis. I've learned to have compassion, empathy for wild animals. I consider them intelligent, sentient, and emotional. It makes me think deeply just why we humans would want to kill grizzlies for trophies, for money, or mostly for egos. We all have a stake in wildlife, whether in Alaska, where this image was taken, or in Wyoming. In Alaska, more than 1,000 grizzly bears are shot every year. Interestingly, British Columbia, who has a very long tradition of hunting grizzlies, halted their hunt last year because of overwhelming public sentiment, who believed that the value of bears alive and for ecotourism was greater than that for hunting. Should we be managing our grizzlies for the nation as a threatened population in Greater Yellowstone under the Endangered Species Act, or managing them in states like Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho for trophy game hunters? Killing grizzlies robs everyone of the thrill and wonder of experiencing the great bear. This morning, I woke, as I do many mornings during the autumn, the sound of rifle shots. Elk hunting season is open in many areas in the national forest and on private lands surrounding the park. In less than a month, Grand Teton Park will have its own elk hunting season, the only national park to have a hunt. Every morning, I can only hope that the gunshots are for elk and not for a bear like 399. It's a grizzly's most dangerous season. They become conditioned to running towards the sound of a rifle, as if a dinner bell for a free lunch of gut piles and leftover limbs of elk carcasses. In 1975, grizzlies of Yellowstone were put on the endangered species list because their numbers had plummeted to 136 animals. The fear was they may go extinct. In 2007, the Fish and Wildlife Service decided to remove them, believing their numbers had recovered. In 2008, the courts disagreed. They were relisted because of declining food sources. Last year, in 2017, grizzlies were again removed from the federal protection and turned over to the states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. Wyoming decided to kill 22 bears. Montana, none. Idaho, 1. The hunt was halted a couple of weeks ago when a federal judge decided that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service violated the Endangered Species Act and relisted them again. I've been very blessed to spend all these years with 399 and her offspring. She has 17 descendants. More than half of them have been killed by man. And her experience is a magical experience for me. It will not likely come again.